Hello, grade 12 scholars. My name is Ms. Novak, and we are in week 7, lesson 31 of your ELA Distance Learning. Here we go with our reminders. We always know that we'll have some variety in the mix, right? Today's lesson will be much different than yesterday's lesson. Much, but you'll definitely see. We'll also provide you a list of materials and resources needed, engage in an overview of the lesson and the different components. I'll make sure to model for you the learning expectation, especially as it relates to a writing task, and of course we'll preview the next day's learning. Yesterday we engaged in a first read of the poem. Today we'll do a close read of the first part of the poem and then answer a few questions. The video for this lesson is ELA G12W7L31. We're reading Escape from the Old Country, and our task today is to reread lines 1 through 17 and to answer a few questions about the text. Here's our favorite list of reminders before we start our lesson. First, make sure that you carve out that time to share your learning from today's lesson with someone at home or perhaps a friend. Next, make sure to complete the weekly fluency practice. Directions can be found on page 2 in your learning packets. Remember, it's so important to do this, and it's especially exciting to do this with a poem. And lastly, make sure that you are reading for 20 minutes and logging your activity in your reading log, again, on page 4 of your learning packet. We have our daily word puzzles to stretch our thinking muscles and to give us a boost of confidence or to frustrate us, depending on if we solve it or not. Either way, we're thinking. So take a look at this image. Think about what words or phrases it brings to mind. Take about 15 seconds here, or pause the video if you have to. And the answer is headquarters. I'm pleased to report that I solved this, although it did take me a little bit longer than 15 seconds. At any rate, get it? The head, the quarters. Now we're ready to stretch our thinking muscles for today's learning. The materials and resources that you'll need for this lesson can all be found in your grade 12 learning packet. Your lesson 31 is located on page 97, note catcher on page 98, poem, not surprisingly, on page 94, and you need a pencil or pen to write with, and maybe even a highlighter too, if you really want to kick your annotation up a notch. Today we will continue our study of Escape from the Old Country by Adrienne Sue. We'll make sure that the essential question is top of mind. What does it mean to call a place home? And we'll let the guiding questions do just that, guide our thinking. What makes a place important enough to write about, and in what ways is home both a place and a state of mind? As I mentioned in yesterday's lesson, these questions really hit home with this poem. Our learning target for today reads, I can read a poem and answer questions about specific details. So today's lesson brings us to a granular level analysis. I'm really excited about it. Now for an overview of our learning. Today we'll start by rereading the first part of the poem. You'll spend the rest of the lesson thinking, talking, and writing about the poem. With any reading, it can be helpful to talk to someone else as you're processing the meaning. But this is especially true with this type of poem, as it relates to identity and self-reflection. The language of poems can be more complex, and hearing someone else's perspective and talking through your ideas might be helpful as you analyze and interpret the author's point of view and their intended messaging. So take some time to make sure that you understand the different lesson components, annotate the lesson plan if needed, you know that I love to do that, and get ready to start our learning today. Today, as mentioned, you'll be rereading parts of the text, specifically lines 1 through 17. If you have the Bounce Pages app on your phone, time to get that out, because you might want to listen to the poem as an audio version as you engage in this close reading. The first part of the poem that I would like you to read is lines 1 through 4. As you read, think about what the word one is referring to. It may help you to review the author's background and the background sections that we read yesterday. Make notes in the margins about your thoughts about how these sections might connect to these lines. When you're ready, share your thinking with a family member or friend. Pause the video to complete this step now. Welcome back from that reread of the text. Although I won't give you the exact answer here, since I'm sure you and your discussion partner came up with some very authentic, original, and great ideas, I'll point out that the author included some clues in these stanzas. The details the author provides in these sentences are all related to what she is talking about in line 1, where she says, one, quote unquote. These lines, I never had to make one, no sickening weeks by ocean, no waiting for the aerograms. And remember, aerograms, footnote, letters delivered by air, that gradually cease to come. 2 lessons there. Refer back to the author's background and the background of the text, and also make sure that you're using the footnotes, because decoding that word aerograms actually helped me make sense of these stanzas. Next, I'd like you to reread lines 12 through 16. As you read, mark the words and phrases that tell you what the author is trying to imagine. Then think about what she means in lines 13 and 14 when she says, try to imagine being nothing, and make some notes in the margins of the text. If you need help, you can revisit the sample annotations from yesterday's lesson. The video is entitled ELA G12W7L30. The sections we discussed in that excerpt are related to lines 12 through 16. Also, make sure that you share your thinking with someone. I know that there are a lot of different opinions floating around, especially when it comes to analyzing poetry, but this may help reinforce your understanding and be more confident in your written responses, which will come after. Pause the video to do this step now. And now for our last round. I'd like you to reread lines 17 through 19. As you read, think about what the poet means by the land that occupies the person. Do you agree? Write your notes in the margins of the text, and when you're ready, discuss your insight with someone. Pause the video to complete this step now. Welcome back. I'd like to engage in a quick review of close reading, especially for line 17. As I went back and reread line 17, I connected it back to what we discussed yesterday. So it reads, yet the land occupies a person. I remember thinking to myself, as the speaker takes steps to assimilate into American culture and tries to imagine what it would be like to not be the child of an immigrant, she's conscious of the grip that her heritage has on her and recognizes that her culture has an important place in her being and identity. Here's a question that I'm raising for us as an audience. Even though the author brought the American things and was born in America, she still feels connected to her Chinese heritage. Do you agree with this statement? I wish we could have a conversation right here and now, but we can't. You can have a conversation, however, though, with someone from home, classmates, or your teacher. I encourage you to do so. Now that you've read, thought, and talked through different parts of the poem, it's time to pull your thoughts together. On your note catcher, I'd like you to answer the first 3 questions seen here. They're related to the thinking and talking you just did, so you might want to use your learnings from the first part of the lesson and your notes to help you write your answers. Pause the video now to answer these 3 questions. Then, in your last part, in your last activity, which is a really hard one if you ask me, we'd like you to paraphrase lines 1 through 19 of the poem. This means that you'll rewrite the poem in your own words. Remember that when you paraphrase, you're not capturing every last detail, and you don't need to express every thought that the author has. Rather, you'll read and try to rewrite the main parts so that it would make sense to someone picking it up and reading it who wants to know a little bit more about the text. Pause the video now, take some time to wrap up your learning for the day and to create a really great paraphrasing effort of this particular poem. I had a question, who would I go to? Let me think. A teacher friend. If you have a question, turn to your teacher. You can email them at their first name their last name at detroitk12.org. I'm sure they'd love to hear from you. Can you believe we are already up to lesson 32? I can. I actually can. Tomorrow's learning target reads, I can analyze how a poet's word choice determines their intended audience. Interesting. Let's go deeper into this learning tomorrow. Ms. Novak signing off for lesson 31, but not before we have a couple of quick reminders. The first one being, as always, share your learning with someone from home or perhaps a friend. Next, make sure that you're reading for 20 minutes and logging your activity in the reading log. And lastly, practice your fluency. Again, it can be a really fun activity, especially when paired with a poem. We'll see you soon.